Hi everyone, welcome on today's PEFC public consultation webinar. On this summer day, we are going to Italy and we are going to talk about the Italian forest certification system. My name is Hubert Inhäuser. I'm a technical officer at PEFC International and I'm happy to be your host on today's webinar. The program is the same as we usually have on these webinars. First, I will deliver a short introduction of PEFC International for those who are not that familiar with our system. And then the main item for today is the presentation of the Italian forest certification system to be presented by Antonio and his team from PEFC Italy. And at the end, as always, we're going to have time for clarification, questions and answers. So let's get started. The acronym stands for Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification Systems. We are an alliance of independent national forest certification systems under the umbrella of PEFC International. All of these national certification systems are based on PEFC's sustainability benchmark standards or international standards like the chain of custody. This is the purely voluntary mechanism promoting sustainable forest management through independent third-party certification. We are very proud that we are the world's largest forest certification system and provider of 3/4 of the world's certified sustainably managed timber. On this map, you will see our global coverage. It's important to note that those countries, what you see with dark green, those are our PEFC members with endorsed systems. And those which are light greens are currently do not have endorsed systems. Just a couple of words about the Italian system. So the Italian system was submitted in April this year for assessment. This assessment is carried out by an independent assessor yet to be appointed. And as part of this assessment, there's a 60 days public consultation possibility. It's an international consultation. You can visit our website and you can get the link also through this presentation. We opened this consultation today, and the deadline for accepting comments and contributions to this consultation is 24th of August. Please note that all of these comments submitted to this international public consultation will be considered by the assessor in the assessment report. Again, if you are interested, if you want to take a look or you were engaged in the Italian system development and you have a comment on this, please feel free to do so by 24th of August. And this was it really from my side, this very short presentation. And I'm very, very happy to have Antonio and his team with us today. And I've stopped sharing the screen and I hand it over to Antonio. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hubert. I'm going immediately to share the screen in order to start this presentation. As you said, we are going to introduce our certification system, and after explaining what is forestry in Italy, we will introduce you not only the certification system, but the 6 sustainable forest management and 3 outside forest related standards. With me is Eleonora Mariano and Francesco Marini, that are the technical team that develop in this 30 months process the entire re-endorsement process. So Italy, as you know, is a peninsula, is 1,400 long kilometer land, starting from alpine area till sub-Saharan vegetation. So that gives an idea of the diversity of vegetation and also cultural approach to forestry. With this image, you can see that forests are covering more than 1/3 of the country. And according to the FAO definition, we have around 11 million hectares of forest and other wooded lands. Only 18% of our Italian forest area is managed on a basis of forest management plan. That means that several million of hectares have no management plan and let's say are abandoned area. Less than 100,000 hectares are covered by forest plantation, but this is very important topic because this 1% of vegetation cover 50% of industrial procurement in internal timber. This picture is important because in the last 100 years, we have a growth of the forest. The green area is what was present 100 years ago. The other yellow color are the new forest, the new pioneer forest who growth in the last 100 years, while the red forest, the red spot, are those that disappear in the last 100 years. So this phenomena is very well described in the last 40-year growth when we had 15% only in the last 40 years. As you can see, there is a new forest coming, mainly in abandoned pasture or abandoned hilly areas. So it's full of pioneer species, not managed areas. Coppice forest is the more common silvicultural system in Italy, and high forest is only 1/3. This is probably connected to the fact that 2/3 of Italian forest area is privately owned, and only 1/3 is public. As you can imagine, private farmers are more interested in fast revenues, so fuel wood is the main outcome of this area, while high forests are providing not only ecosystem services, but valuable timber. This situation brought the Italian legislation to be very strict. In fact, as you remember, 100 years ago, we were having 1/3 of the actual forest. Therefore, 100 years ago, it started a very strong landscape restriction and hydrogeological protection that brings now to have 100% of our forest area under landscape restriction, 81% of total forest area subjected to hydrogeological protection, and more than 1/3 is under environmental protection, as you can see by this slide. 39% of the entire protected area is under the Natura 2000 and natural protected area legislation, while you can see national parks, regional parks, natural reserve are less than 10%. An interesting fact that is guiding us in developing our sustainable forest management standard is the fact that only 1/3 of the annual volume increment is harvested annually. By this picture, you can see in the year 2020 that Italy is the last but one country for timber removal to net increments. And I show you the fact that in 2018, we had a catastrophic wind throw called Vaia, who destroyed more than 50,000 hectares of alpine forests, and less than 20 million trees were uprooted. So in this removal data is also what happened after the wind throw. This low harvest rate means that there is a very low anthropogenic pressure on our forest. Data says that is 2 million cubic meter per year of industrial timber production and 6 million cubic meter for firewood. Again, interesting is to see that the industrial pulp production is the same quantity than forest, even though it's only 1% as surface. In the other hand, this low harvest rate brings a heavy dependence on the country on wood and forest-derived products, such as paper, pulp, and industrial timber. Indeed, 80% of industrial timber is imported. It's notable to know that we are the 6th world biggest importer of timber, the 2nd in Europe, and the 4th world biggest importer of pulp and paper. What is, let's say, astonishing for us is that Italy is also the world's biggest importer of firewood and the 4th biggest importer of pellet. And that means that we are also a country that cut a lot of firewood, but we have much more in legal and illegal situation. Talking about wood and paper industry sector in Italy, the wood sector is a relevant component in our economy. You have to know that together with fashion, our furniture and our products done with timber are the important sector of the made in Italy. In fact, in the world market of wood furnishing, Italian industry is leader in the export, 10% of the world furniture market, immediately after China and together with Poland. Another important topic is that Italy is the 2nd largest exporter of tissue paper for domestic use. Talking about PEFC Italy, PEFC developed a very strong presence in our Italian forest. 10% of Italian forests are PEFC and FSC certified, but we share the 96% of sustainable forest management certification. While in chain of custody, we have only 1/3 of the total chain of custody certification. FSC is stronger, is 2/3 of the total amount of company. This is the situation. Going to the standard setting process, this is the 3rd re-endorsement process. In 2020, in fact, as you can see, we started in 2004. Then we had the popular standard certification, since it's so important as I described, then 2009, 2015. In 2018, we had the international requirement for tree outside forest. And since we had already trees in agricultural land standardized by us, we included the urban green areas and agroforestry standard in our certification scheme. This because we were already ready for implementing this important requirement required by international PEFC International. Before I describe what happened in forestry and in other 5 standards, it's important for you to know that we started in October 2020 the entire process: stakeholder mapping, public announcement, stakeholder invitation. And only in January 2021, we had the first meeting with the forum, inviting 58 different partners in joining our 6 standard working group. Indeed, the forum worked basically 1.5 years with urban trees area starting the first public consultation in May 2022, forest in August, agroforestry in September, and tree plantation in September 2022 for 60 days. Then urban areas and agroforestry areas had the pilot testing, since they were the 2 new standards, and the second round of public consultation ended in March 2023. Therefore, immediately after, we had the consensus on final draft, and PEFC board of directors approved in the end of March, and we published the final 6 standards in April 2023. That is why we arrive in the end of April 2023 to the presentation to PEFC International. And now we are here to present all the activities. I know that you are interested to know what happened. Well, again, we created a system, a certification system that was having inside both sustainable forest and tree outside forest management certification system. You see, forest and tree outside forest are described in this way. If the trees are in agricultural lands, we have tree plantation, that is poplar plantation, medium long-term plantation, and polycyclic plantation. This plantation do not need any pesticide, any fertilization. That means that is a close to forest plantation system. And we developed a sustainable management of an agroforestry system standard. But if the trees were in urban area, since there are different legislation in urban area, agricultural area, and forest area, we had to develop different standards. What is interesting is that all the process started during the pandemic period, and therefore we had to do 30 online meetings, and apparently this works very well because we were able to involve, let's say, stakeholder with problems like mountain area people or situation in which there were no money to participate like that. We were having a very, very big number of participants. As you can see, for forests, we had 35 partners. For the poplar plantation and long-term plantation and polycyclic plantation, we had 12 partners. For the new standards like agroforestry, 22, for urban green areas, 27. You see here the name of the reference, university, academia, research, university, editorial people, research, university. So the reference of each working group had a person in charge with the management of the standard development. Here, just a very fast review of our first document. As you can see here, we have a description of a certification system in which we have all the procedures, while here we have all the indicators and criteria and guidelines that brings to the field checking by auditors. Regarding the Sustainable Forest Management Standard, again, now we were having 20 years of life of this standard. So I've been tested several times by pilot test first and then continuous improving. But the gap analysis highlighted that we needed to increase the requirements given by the 2003-2018 standard. What is important is that we were including all the stakeholder requests and issues. For example, we increase the mandatory indicators, and interesting for the assessors is that the guidelines, we decided not to have should but shall. That means that also our guidelines are mandatory. A few examples: biodegradable oils are now mandatory in certified forest. That means that if workers are not using biodegradable oils and fluids, forest cannot be certified. We have, as a new novelty for our 2023 standard, we have introduced procedures for certification in low intensity management. That means that if there is a less than, and we have the threshold, some indicators that are mandatory cannot be mandatory. More or less is like the SLIM concept of FSC, just to give you a reference of what we went in which direction. And since the management plan is mandatory for forest with higher density and spread more than 100 hectares, now we have a mandatory planning checklist for forest areas with from 1 to 99 hectares. This is just fast for the sustainable management of forest. Now I give the word to Eleonora, that is now talking with us. Let's see.
Good morning. So let's continue with the presentation of our review standards. Now we are going to present our standards related to plantation management. The need of changing the 2015 version of our standards related to plantation management has been raised both for being in compliance with the requirements coming from PEFC international benchmarks and standards, but also for integrating PEFC Italy stakeholders' requests and issues. This is a really key point. With this new review, the standard for sustainable plantation management has been divided into 3 specific standards related to the 3 types of plantation that are certificable to date. So we are talking about certification of poplar plantation, which is the standard PEFC ITA 1001-2. Then we have a standard for medium long-term plantation, so the standard PEFC ITA 1001-3. And then we have the standard for the polycyclic plantation, which is the standard PEFC ITA 1001-4. So here you can see the cover of these 3 standards, so criteria and indicators for the certification of sustainable poplar cultivation management, the certification of sustainable management of medium long-term plantation, and the certification of sustainable management of polycyclic plantation. Each of these standards follow the same structure. So we have from one side the core of our standard with 6 criteria, guidelines, and indicators. And then we have a specific appendix for each standard containing technical information and technical aspects to be followed for each domain. Just a little focus on the standard regarding plantation, more spread in Italy, so the popular plantation standard. With our working group, we decided to modify the percentage of the main popular clone that has been decreased from 90 to 80%. We also decided that at least one clone must be of the most environmentally sustainable type, which is characterized by high resistance to biotic adversity. We also decided to delete the table containing allowed commercial name of pesticides because it changes almost every day.
Now let's continue with Francesco Marini, that is the colleague who guided with us the process of development of sustainable management of agroforestry system in the logic of studying the trees in agricultural lands. Francesco, is your word, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm just talking about the sustainable management of agroforestry systems, starting by the definition by PEFC Italy Forum that the agroforestry is a collective name for land use practices where trees and shrubs are consciously and rationally integrated with crops and or animal husbandry in the same land unit and where there are important ecological and or economic interactions between trees and agricultural and animal components. The scope of this standard is the 3 components of an agroforestry system and its related elements. This standard defines elements of sustainable management of the 3 components of the agroforestry system and the technical preparation, health, and safety of the operators in charge of managing the areas subject to certification. The 3 systems that are able to certified are silvoarable system, the 3 components and related elements of silvoarable system, silvopastoral system, and agro-silvopastoral system. The important thing that are the 3 components and the related elements that are able to be certified with this standard. This document is composed of 6 criteria and 36 guidelines with 43 mandatory indicators. We focused in agroforestry topic such as the agroforestry systems, interventions, and practices in, for example, in criterion 2. We test the standard in agro-silvopastoral farm, Tenuta di Pacanico in Tuscany region, with a surface of 1,600 hectares, divided in forest, cork forest, and pasture, with Maremana cattle, and you can see in the picture. And we tested the standard in this farm financed by a rural development program, and because in Mediterranean area the forest non-wood and agroforestry products can be very important. In this picture we reported some example, Italian example, such as certified chestnut, essential oils, porcini mushrooms, and forest honey. but also other standards such as the Spain standard. It can be possible to certify wildlife meat, or in Portugal, it's possible to certify the cork.
Thank you, Francesco. Indeed, it's very important for us as Mediterranean country to give importance to non-wood forest products and giving highlight the possibility to agroforestry system to certify their product as well. Indeed, the products here are all with forest standard, and it's time for certification of agroforestry material. Now, as described before, since we have a different law for the presence of trees in urban areas, we decided to go ahead and develop a standard for the urban green area. Again, here is Eleonora, who will describe the process.
So let's continue with the presentation of our tree outside forest standards. We are going now to talk about the standard PEFC ITA 1001-6 related to the certification of urban green area. This is a new standard that we have been built together with several stakeholders. Starting from the national level, we work together with national authorities, so Ministry of Agriculture, and also a specific committee of the Ministry of the Environment. The working group was composed also by local authorities, municipalities, trade organizations, environmental association, and scientific research. How we have been working, we started from PEFC international standard and benchmark, and then we populate and we built our standard thanks to national references. So for example, here you can see guidelines from the Ministry of Environment regarding the sustainable urban green area management, or national normative references, and also the national law regarding the application of green public procurement in Italy. At the very beginning of our work, we decided to clearly identify three domains, the three domains of urban green area. What we are talking about when we talk about urban green area, we talk about linear or diffuse trees, parks and gardens, and urban forest. And we decided that each indicator could be applied to one, two, or to all three of our identified domains. Our standard for sustainable management of urban green area is composed by the 6 criterion we use for the other PEFC standard. The first one is related to maintenance or appropriate enhancement of urban green space and the contribution to the global carbon cycle. Main topics referred to this criterion are about urban green area and its variation, green census, tree renewal and quality of renewal, and positive climate practices. The criterion number 2 is referred to the capacity of maintaining the health and vitality of ecosystem, and some topics referred to this criterion are about monitoring planning and practice of pruning operation, surveillance system for ecosystem health and vitality, phytosanitary management, fertilization, planting, managing of waste, and managing of oils and other fluids. Now we are going to present the criterion number 3, which is related to the productive function, and here we have 2 key indicators we have been discussing for a long period with our working group. An indicator related to the contents of the green plan and the indicator related to the contents of the green regulation. Then we have the criterion number 4, which is related to the biological diversity maintenance, conservation, and enhancement. And here we have topics, for example, related to sensitive areas, to monumental and valuable and rare trees, to quality of propagation materials, but also to diversity of plant species and types, and to how manage the presence of infrastructure in our urban green area. The criterion number 5 is about protective functions, and so we talk in this criterion about sensitive and protective areas, inventory, mapping and planning of sensitive soils, stormwater management and irrigation management. And then we have the last criterion about other function and socio-economic conditions. Some key indicators are related to communication and promotion, and also public participation, to managing the tree risk, to the presence of an insurance, and also to the index of specialization of the staff employed in the urban green area sector. Being this standard, a new standard, we had also to organize a pilot test in order to apply the new standard into a real situation with real conditions. Actually, we had 2 different pilot tests. The first one was carried out between November and December 2022 in Parco Nord in Milan. And thanks to this pilot test, we modify our vocabulary, adapting it to the terminology from forestry to urban green sector. Then we had also a second pilot test thanks to the cooperation with the municipality of Turin. This second pilot test allowed us to testing approaches for a big municipality, and also inserting the concept of graduality in achieving some challenging objectives for a big organization such as a municipality. Thanks for your attention.
Excellent. So this explains why we put so much energy in the urban areas and in agroforestry area, because we are totally new standard inside the tree outside forests standard required by PEFC International. Now we are available for questions and answers.
First of all, thank you very much, Antonio, for this excellent and very rich presentation. It's, I think, perfectly displays the hard work and energy you put into the system. And as those who looked at other PEFC consultation webinars, you might notice that the Italian system is working on a very wide spectrum of SFM applications. And I think this is something which is a very forward-looking approach to find the right set of requirements for the right area, what you are targeting. And now we have time for the questions and answers. And I see that Gary Lawson is raised the hand. So please, when you ask the question, please introduce yourself and go ahead with your question. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I should be unmuted, and also you can see the video, I think. Question about definitions. Definition of forest, definition of other wooded land, definition of agriculture, definition of urban areas. Is there a map which you have which shows or that you are using that shows precisely the area of forest, for example, in Italy? Does this include or not include the FAO so-called other wooded land and the FAO definition of other land with tree cover? It's one question, the areas. The other question is, do you have in Italy a good indication of the volume of timber and the increment of timber from from trees outside the forest? And if not, is anybody working on achieving those? Because having an indication of how large the increment is will give everyone a good impression of how important the standard is as well. If we are saying that, for example, 20% of the wood increment in Italy is coming from trees outside the forest, then people will realize that what you're doing is very, very important.
Fantastic question, Jerry. Thank you very much. Indeed, the definition of what is forest, what is other wooded land, what is plantation and urban area was the first exercise we have to do. We decided to follow the Italian definition done by TUF, the consolidated text on forestry that was issued in year 2018, and it takes the FAO definition for forest and for other wooded lands, and we decided to use such a definition also for agroforestry. That means that is lower than 20% coverage, the density lower than 10%, etc., etc. So I will be absolutely happy to, in personal way, to send you what we have, but it is all described by our system because it's absolutely important for auditors who go in the field to know, am I issuing a certificate for forest or for agroforestry, for example. While for urban area is very easy, because whatever the municipality decide, this is urban forest or is peri-urban area, or it is not urban area, then it is easy for a certification body to know the border, the framework of the tree coverage area that has to stay under a sustainable urban forest scheme or a forest scheme. Regarding the other important question, that is, as we know how much wooden production is coming from the tree outside forest situation, we have ideas on plantation. We have an estimate of what is the tree outside forest, meaning agroforestry and everything that is on buffer strips, on shelter wood, etc. But this is a weak point of the Italian system. We have a very low quality data system. The new law is asking for better data, because better data will mean better planning and better planification of our resources. So PFC is definitely part of a stakeholder group who's asking more data. And with the new ministry activities, with Alessandra Stefani direction, we are going towards this direction. Thank you very much for good question.
Thank you both for the questions and the answer. I think that's something which is really very interesting, and those who are wanted to get deeper into the way how the Italian system is structured, that you can find it on the PEFC website, together with the full system documentation, including the description of the trees outside forest standard. Is there anybody else with a question today? Well, I think also that it was very informative, and I think probably many people will come back to the recording, so will do I, to catch up on the details. And if there's no any other question, I would like to really thank Antonio, Eleanor, and Francesco for the excellent work to put together this very informative presentation for all of us today. And I do encourage everyone still one more time to, if you have the time, take a closer look at the Italian full system documentation, the PEFC website, and please submit your comments if you have any until 24th of August. With this, again, thank you both for joining and everybody else, and I wish you an excellent day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.